I'll call the meeting to order. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's have a roll call, please.
President Dobler,
Present.
Vice President Jones, Commissioner Scholar,
Present.
Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Darrow,
Here.
Solicitor Stone,
Here.
Manager Patterson.
Here.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for making time to be here tonight. Welcome to our old faces. Welcome to some faces that are coming back. Let's start. I should point out before we get into too much of it that we have what's expected to be a lengthy executive session following the regular meeting tonight. So I will be whipping through our agenda as quickly as I can so that we can get to our our executive session. With that in mind, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the legislative meeting of February 15th, 2016.
So moved.
I second.
The motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Let's move on to our reports. Public safety. No chief?
No, chief. I have the printed out report and I have nothing to back it up, so I could just tell you a number of calls on a few things.
Let's hear what he has to say.
5 hangups, 6 road department call outs, 4 medical assist for the ambulance, 3 stray animals, couple business alarms, couple residence alarms, fraud, another fraud, and a threat. So.
All right.
And with that.
Right.
That's all I got. I don't get the backup. You know,
I got you. Any questions concerning that? All right, let's move along to the fire department. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Passing out a list of calls for 2015 year-end report.
Thank you.
First 3 pages are listed call by call from Stokely Heights to Aleppo. Just a brief description. If you go to the last page, it gives us a list of how many calls the fire company ran, which is 146. 82 calls in Stokely Heights and 64 in Aleppo. And it just kind of gives you a breakdown of what type of alarms, what type of calls we had for 2015. Couple of ones, if you compare these to the years prior, we used to have a lot of commercial alarms. That number has gone way down drastically. I mean, we used to be, probably 30% of our call volume would be Sonic Village. Well, that has since stopped since they added the new add-on to Valley Care, and they upgraded the system, which has been great. So we're not seeing false alarms, but we do see alarms there periodically. Bird food. People pull the alarms by mistake. They think it's the door button when you go through the doors, and they place the panic at the pull stations right there. We've had a couple of those, but really nothing major. First column for Aleppo, as far as the residential structure fires, that kind of covers a couple different areas. We had a kitchen fire and we had an electrical fire. It's not a full-blown house fire, which people right away they think of structure fire. Those still fall under the structure fire category. Vehicle accidents, you see there were 25. Most of those are interstate calls between I-79 and Route 65. We do a 3-company response for those 2 areas. It's also Ohio Township and Hemsworth. I do apologize. I did have my report for the first quarter, but I think it's back at the station. I had it with me earlier, but I don't have it. So far this year, we've had 14 calls, and I believe the calls are just about half and half between Aleppo's. Wanted to make sure that we invite. I'm sure everybody's going to see the signs, but invite everybody. May 14th, I believe, is our open house. You'll see it will be posted throughout the township where the signs along the road. Everybody's welcome. It's the same thing as last year. We'll have a few public entities there. In Ohio Township, they bring a crew of people. They bring their MRAP, usually their K-9 officer. We have the Allegheny County Silver Team. Valley Ambulance and whoever we can get involved in emergency services will be there to put on little demonstrations. And we'll have food there as well this year.
Your literature looks nice.
Pardon me?
Your literature looks nice.
Oh, thank you.
That's-
That's it for the fire department. If there's any questions, if you see anything that stands out on the call list, it is just a brief description. A lot of this is what we get dispatched to. A lot of times there's the different outcomes when we actually perform, what job we perform at the call. So if there's anything that stands out and you want a little bit more information, I'll be glad to answer. I just for the report's sake, it's just kind of try to keep it simple.
Is there anything of note that you think is important in this list for us to hear about?
Not really. Everything's just about normal. This year we're kind of we're slow start. We only have 14 calls this year. If you look at the list, this time last year we had 30.
Wow.
So it's nice. It's nice and quiet. It's the way we like it.
And you said that relative to years past, we were down on commercial alarms.
We were up on commercial alarms compared to this year. This year was
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
This year's down.
right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So how about by total number?
Commercial is 8 for this year, for 2015. But out of that 8, I believe we had 3 of them that were in the industrial park.
No, I'm saying, how does the 146 number compare to other years?
We were up, I think 30 calls, 225, 30 calls from 2014. It fluctuates. I mean, there's times that we'll run 160 calls, and then there's some years we'll run 115.
Mhm.
When they had a construction on the interstate, we were getting clobbered with vehicle accidents. When they had 1-lane restrictions, we had a lot of vehicle accidents. If you look on the bottom of the Aleppo column, assist other agencies, we had 10 calls that we went out of town for. We assisted other agencies. Those are all structure fires.
Mhm.
And that varies too. Depends on what's going on in our neighboring communities. Manpower and stuff like that dictates how many calls that we run with those guys.
Any other questions? Thanks very much. My understanding is that there's fire training tonight, so we also wanted to have you jump straight to your report about the Deer Run pump station.
Correct. Thank you.
Sure.
Very much.
Sure.
It was asked of me to put together a timeline of events that led up to the $7,000 bill that we've seen in the last couple of months, particularly at the Deer Run pump station. Basically, I just started from December 5th, and this is when we started experiencing the second problem at the pump station. And if you kind of go down through it, just a little narrative of each date and what we found. We had a problem with a seal fail alarm that started this. When we responded to the seal fail alarm, through the course of investigating it, we found out that actually the pump in the wet well, the bolts had come loose and actually was moving, and it actually displaced the gasket. That's when we noticed that we had an issue in the wet well. So item number 5 kind of, summarizes it a little bit on what we had to do. It was more than just the 2 of us, the 2 employees that the authority could handle. We brought in another contractor who actually constructed the pump station in Swiftly Heights Manor, the same contractor. You might not know this, but the original plan, we had 2 separate contractors. One contractor built the Swiftly Heights, another contractor built the one at Deer Run. We really liked the job that the guys did on Swiftly Heights, so we contracted their services to come out and help us do this repair since they were familiar with it.
Is it the design at Sewickley Heights different than the design at Deer Run?
If you look at the buildings, they're identical. The only thing that's different is Sewickley Heights only consists of 2 pumps in the wet well. This one down here is what they call tandem pumping, and there's 4 pumps at this one, just because of the head that it has to pump from the pump station up to the top of the hill. Other than that, almost everything's identical. From the grinder pumps, all the pumps are identical. The configuration of the building, the mechanicals of the building are the same. It's just there's 4 pumps down here.
Is the vacuum seal going to be replaced? Yeah, vacuum, sorry about that.
Air vacuum relief valves.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. On the last 2 pages, I tried to include some pictures, and if anybody, like I said, they want to get more in depth to this, I can take them down and show them what we have. well, get back to item number 5. The one picture, the dark picture, it shows the basin is actually, if you, where you see where we're pointing to, there's a little square that's about 3/4 of an inch deep. And we think what happened was with the air being entered into the system, that was allowing that pump to move. And it just eroded the concrete out to a point where just the gasket fell out. So that's what we found the day of the repair.
So every time that pump turns on, it's turning on to an empty pipe,
Correct. It's pumping air.
which gives a hell of a jolt to the system.
Going back and going a little bit further into this, we did have our engineers, Dave Kirshner from Banks and Engineers and Greg Media from WC Wow. We met with them on March 14th at the site. And we were reaching out trying to get different opinions because we kind of felt, we knew we had a problem with the air, but we wanted to have more backing on that. And those guys came out and gave us their opinion. And as soon as they walked in the building, we both of them were like, okay, this doesn't look right. It doesn't look the way that we would have designed it. They noticed the air vacuum relief valves. If we already had air release valves on the original drawings, and you're supposed to put those at the highest point in your system. Well, they're there, but these other air vacuum relief devices were put in afterwards. Now, we don't know who put them in. It was either part of KLH's design, Hoffman, or DAS Construction. We don't know who ordered to put those in, but actually what they put in was the wrong type of valve.
We signed off on the last work, final work.
I have no idea. I know an initial startup, they had a lot of problems displacing the air out of the system, and that's when those got installed. But the problem is they installed the wrong device.
Yeah.
What is actually happening, it is displacing the air on initial startup. You can hear the valve open. It discharges the air. Pumps start running. But when the pump shut down, the vacuum part of the valve opens up and lets all the air back into that 4-inch pipe. Therefore, it's draining that 4-inch pipe from there all the way back into the wet well. So now you just fill that whole pipe up with air. So each cycle that kicks on, you're creating an air hammer on valve pump number 2 inside. And those are the 2 pumps that we're having seal fails.
How long has this been since they installed that vacuum air?
We're the original, right after the building was put into service.
Couple of years.
Yeah, been 3 years now. That included the first pump number 1B was actually rebuilt in, I don't remember what date that was. But that one was already replaced once because we had a seal fail on that one. The Welo, the manufacturer of the pumps, they actually prorated that warranty for us because it was still under warranty. And that bill there, I believe the township paid, it was a little over $2,000 at that time.
Now, did you ship that out for rebuild or did they come here to rebuild?
No, we take it to, there's a place in Glenshaw on Route 8, Industrial Pump and Motor. That's who does all of our pumps and motor work. And they are.
I was asking that to see if anybody who installed that happened to be out and take a look at it and see the vacuum air.
No,
Because we've been beating the BGs out of those pumps.
correct.
Okay,
So they, the IPMR, they are the Welo representative for rebuilds in this area. So we took it to them, and then that's when they told me that, these pumps are very expensive to repair. The last pump that we just picked up a couple weeks ago was $5,000 just to repair the mechanical seal. And we think that that's directly involved with the air vacuum valves put in that system. On top of the $7,000 originally that we did for the repair back in December, now we have a $5,000 repair for the second pump.
And do you expect more expense after that?
We hope not. When we had Dave Kirshner from KLH and Greg Media from the Wow Company came out, they're going to make some recommendations to us on the proper repair.
Dave's from Bank.
Dave from Banks, I'm sorry. Like I said, the first thing that they seen was some of the piping configuration, but the main and important thing was those air vacuum relief valves that were put in there that they feel that they should not be in there. That's what's causing a lot of our problems.
well, if they don't recommend getting that vacuum pump out of there, would you let us know? Because that's
I'm already 100% sure. I talked to Dave today, and if you look at the drawing, well, I'm sorry, the picture, there is a piece of pipe that goes between the valve and the pump. They want that whole spool piece off because that spool piece should not be in there. It should be one piece. They noticed the pressure flanges that they used are not the right PSI. They're supposed to be a heavier duty flange, uniflange. So whenever we replace the pipes, we're going to upgrade those devices to the heavy duty uniflange. Remove the air vacuum pits, air relief valves, and whatever else that they recommend that we do that hopefully alleviate this problem. Because if we're faced it every year and a half.
Other than that, everything's great.
Yeah, I would say, we spent a lot of time at this pump station on maintenance. We've had to rebuild the grinder 3 times now. That's part of operation and maintenance, But these high dollar items, that's, if we have to absorb that, that's a lot of money to.
Well,
really-
if you make the last changes that you were just talking about, how much more is that gonna cost?
That we don't know, because once I get the recommendations from our engineers, I have it in the last part there that we're gonna price it out, get a materials list and see what we need to do to repair it.
Okay.
Right now, the only thing I'm about 100% sure is that they want the valves removed and the new piping put in place. Whatever else they want done.
Are the new engineers that you're talking to suggesting that this was a bad design?
Both of them stated that.
Maybe we should seek some reimbursement from,
Well, keep that in
Yeah.
mind when we get into our executive session, because that's part of the discussion.
Knock on wood, we haven't had any issues at the Swiftly Heights pump station. It's only single pumps over there, but everything that we've had over there, the routine maintenance, we catch little things, everything's been working great. Just this one down here is a little bit of thorn on our side, but.
Well, what do you want from us going forward? You want,
We were just looking to, I can't speak for the authority, but I do believe it's under the board's intention to, try to get a little bit of relief back. For us to spend $7,000 on the repair, and now we're getting faced with another $5,000 bill for the pump. Really, and like I said, I can't speak for the board members, but that's really not operation and maintenance. We're feeling, with the backing from our engineers and another outside firm coming in, this is a design problem. It's not an operation. It's not an operation and maintenance oversight. That we weren't doing our job. It's something that was caused due to the original design.
Basically, your board is saying that we turned over to them a defective pump station.
I don't know.
It's not even that, Dan, because we didn't turn it over, it went the other way. So the township owns the structure. So whatever's wrong with the structure, the township owns it.
And they pay us for operation and maintenance, and
Got it.
that's why we feel, when we did the
Understand.
emergency repair, that really wasn't operation and maintenance. That was something that was out of our control. Confused. So I believe that's where our board was. I thought that one of them would be here tonight.
it sounds to me as if there's no movement that's right at this point because we don't know what the cost is, correct?
No, we don't. We don't know what the repair is going to be. And I sent this letter to our engineer, and he kind of made a couple changes on it because apparently they're still looking into it. I said repair, and he said repair replacement. So whatever they're looking at as far as the way the pumping is designed, that might be a change. That I don't know.
Well, but at a minimum, there's a request for $12,000.
That was for the emergency repair back in December, and now we have the $5,000 pump repair. So I guess that would just have to be determined whether that's, if everybody feels that's routine maintenance or is, design problem.
Does anybody have a motion they want to make tonight, or do you want to wait until we
I
find
think
out?
we should wait till executive session.
Let's wait for, let's go through
Yeah,
the
I-
executive session first.
Okay.
A little bit I know, I think this is going to be ongoing.
While you're here, can I ask you a question about the Swickley Heights pump station and the light?
It's off.
It's off. Hallelujah. Thank you.
There was some questions raised about that, and we left it on there we've had vandalism down at the old pump station that was there.
Yeah.
So really, it's on there for, to deter that. And, I've been down at that pump station many times at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, resetting the system when the power goes off.
Yeah.
Even though it runs on a backup generator, I still have to go and reset the panel.
Right.
So 2, 3 o'clock in the morning for me to go down there, it's kind of nice to have the area lit up. But talking to Gwen, we're gonna look to put motion lights on,
There you go.
at least on the outside of the one light facing up the road.
They'll be on all night with the deer walking by.
Well, our resident, this comes up because there's a ongoing continuous resident complaint. So I'm sure that resident would be happy if it was off 80% of the time and the deer turned it on 20% of the time. I'm sure that'd be happy. So thank you.
I think last week.
Good. I appreciate that.
I figured everybody would want to see it. I mean, it's $1 million building.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
May I ask change again? Clayton has to leave also, so can we bump him up a little bit? But he also has a meeting he has to attend.
Sure.
Oh, good. Well, first off, I just want to say thank you for the board for appointing me. Hope all's going well. We provided the tax collector reports for you for the months of January and February. I know George and also the treasurer's report are here of all the different accounts. I know George and I will be speaking later on about possibly redoing these forms for you to kind of capture more trends and maybe a little bit easier to kind of view the information and be able to make decisions based on that stuff. So for the tax collector's report, the January 2016, we collected a total of $13,946.08. You can kind of see the breakdown between earned income, business privilege, local service, property, delinquent real estate, and realty transfer taxes. February, we ended up collecting $25,657. Again, you can see the breakdown with that. Any questions about the tax collector information?
Nope.
For the treasurer's report, this just gives you a breakdown of the general fund that's handled through PNC, and then the various investment accounts that are handled through the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust, known as the PLGIT. And you can kind of see the breakdowns in the different accounts that are there, along with the CD programs, the liquid fuels, the reserve fund, the capital improvements fund, the infrastructure fund. So you can kind of see for total monies on hand. For January 2016, we had $1,287,118.35. Subtracting out the pledged funds and the targeted funds, you get a net operating funds of $1,171,077.23. And then below that is all the sewer bond funds and their respective balances as well. For February, we had total monies on hand, $1,241,979.40. Again, subtracting out the pledged funds and the targeted funds, we had net operating funds of $1,125,771.30. And then again, the sewer balances as well. So.
As you transition in, does everything seem comfortable?
Yeah, I'm slowly figuring out where the numbers are coming from,
Right.
being able to monitor all that stuff. So I had a few questions for Glenn as far as the tax collector portion, but I think I'm starting to understand, and having gone through most of the balance statements and the budgets and whatnot, trying to be able to compare, and again, where we want to kind of follow trends just to make sure that we're not overspending in certain areas.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Enjoy your training tonight.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
week. All
Thank
right,
you.
See ya.
Emergency management.
Next week, next month, you'll have on your agenda adopt a resolution for the Allegheny County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Judy has submitted the plan to me and to George to review, and we'll have a recommendation, but it's basically the last piece in our getting fully up and running for emergency management.
Thank you. Public Works?
Well, we plowed all the roads, I mean, hopefully we've seen the last of that. And maintenance on the sprayers, of course, we had orders all together to fill the building, another 300 times we put in the building. And we had to put a new mirror on the one truck because it was busted. And we did the trailer, put new lights, rewired our whole trailer, fixed the sign on Switchfoot Circle, I don't know if you noticed, it was all bent. And the recommendation to profile and tar and chip School Street, Hill Road, and to line storm for pipe coming off Swifted Ridge Drive. We spoke with Ben from HRG, and George was in on a meeting we had. And the reason School Street, one of the priority roads, it's not in Aleppo, but we have to maintain it. It's in Glenfield Borough. And it's a very heavy travel road. And the road needs profiled, tar and chipped to extend the life of it. Because if we wait much longer, a big repair. And the same with Hill Road, that would just be a tar and chip to seal it. There's no traffic on it really, but it's just to put us ahead so we're not worried about it. And the lining the pipe, it's a project that's going to have to be done because the manor on Little Glen, they have a problem there with that. So now's the time for us to do what we want to do. And we feel going this route to line the pipe would be cheaper than to dig it up and get down with all the utilities involved, and it's deep. And this company comes in and lines the pipe. And they're out of there within a day.
What does that entail?
Well, they have to come in camera, then they have it like an epoxy and whatever procedure they do, but then they just, right on site, they line the pipe.
It's a storm sewer pipe, so it's coming off the road, yeah.
It's coming
And
off.
it's rusted down at the bottom.
It's bad on the bottom.
And, well, before I ask any questions, are these, the tarring and chipping of the two streets and the lining of the pipe, are these things you are looking for approval on tonight?
If we could, so the engineer could go forward with the bid process.
Okay. So then let's take them one at a time. The roads you want to tar and chip, you want to do School Street and which other one?
Hill Street,
Hill Road.
Hill Road.
And the cost of those is what?
The estimated cost for School Street is $51,000, and the estimated cost for Hill Road is $13,000. And we have $128,000 set aside for paving for this year. The bulk of it will go into savings to build up our account because we like to pay every couple of years, but we have the money budgeted for this year. It's available, so.
We have how much, I'm sorry, set aside?
$128,000 set aside this year.
And what other roads do we have that we're?
None this year. We are basically the next bulk, the group of roads we're gonna do are the what roads in the ridge. And so what we're going to do is budget a few $100,000 every, as much as we can each year. So the goal in about 5 years going through and doing all of those at once.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions about tarring and chipping School Street and Hill Road?
No.
Does anybody have an application or a motion put forward?
So moved. Second.
So motion and a second, and our motion is to approve tarring and chipping or to approve a bid for tarring and chipping?
To approve starting the process this year. We don't have a bid yet.
Okay. So the motion is to approve the process of tarring and chipping School Street and Hill Road. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Do you want to specifically authorize the engineer to prepare the bid specs? Once you,
Isn't that? Oh, yeah.
Well, why don't we just amend the motion that's been, well,
That's what
Yeah,
we do.
go ahead.
let's amend the motion to approve the engineer to prepare the bid specs. So all those in favor say aye of that. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right. That motion carries.
He's awake.
Underlining the pipe. Tell us what pipe we're speaking of here.
As you're going down Swiftly Ridge Drive, on your left-hand side, about halfway down on steep grade before Little Glen, there's 2 catch basins in the middle of the road. The furthest one towards Little Glen, our storm water comes off there, and that pipe goes all the way down through that yard, under Little Glen, and down to that pond. It's a storm sewer pipe.
Mhm.
And the rough estimate on it, without them hammering it again, is $12,000.
No, they're gonna shoot this lining, right?
Yeah, they'll do it, but they have to camera it first.
Yeah.
This is just a rough estimate that they gave, because they came out, met them out there, and we walked the line. But we don't know, the only thing we don't know at this point, if any of the rain conductors are tied into there from building 16, which you don't know till you camera it. Because initially, we cambered it with Tri-State a year ago, but we could only go in 30 feet from Swiftly Ridge Drive because the pipe angles because of the depth. So we only ran to where depth. Now they'd have to come up from the bottom to see to that point and in between.
Well, after they shoot it, or
Camera it.
how are they gonna cut the holes for the,
Well, we don't know. They'll determine that once they run their camera up from the bottom.
all right,
They'll determine, what will have to be done at this point.
okay.
But well, I met the engineer out there, been out there, we've been out there a couple of times. And to do the job, it all have to be trenched because the depth's so deep. And with all the utilities up in that one small part, you got Verizon, electric, gas, water, everything in one little section. And that's the deep section. And if Ben feels the same way, that would be more cost effective going this route with him.
So this is at the same point, I take it that there's not been a formal bid. This is just an estimate, and so what we'd be moving on is approving the
Authorizing
bid.
the engineer solicitor to prepare a bid specification for the
Because he has worked
lining of
with
the sewer.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
For a second.
There's a motion and a second. The motion is to authorize the solicitor and the engineer to prepare a bid. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
I'd like to thank the board
Thank you.
very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
How do we hold up on salt this year?
With this last order, that we filled the building again.
Yep.
It's up to 1,000 tons.
And what was our
900, I believe it was.
It was like 9 or 950, so we're still okay.
we're still in tier one.
We're still in tier 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Communications, I have no report. Planning and zoning, I have no report other than to say that I asked Commissioner Dara if he would be willing to take over planning and zoning, and he agreed to do that, so we're going to transition that to him. Gwen, is there any report with respect to anything that happened at the Planning Commission?
They met on March 2nd, and the only applicant was Michael Minock for his development, and the engineer still had a few questions, so it was not recommended for approval yet. He will be back to the Planning Commission on April 6th, and it is expected that he'll have completed all the changes, and it will come to the board here for both a subdivision and land development approval and a conditional use hearing, because a portion of his land is in Weber's Corner, which requires a conditional use hearing to put houses there on the 18th, April 18th, the legislative meeting. So that's when we think it'll all arrive here. On a separate track, he is seeking a variance for some of the conditions, and that hearing is going to be on March 31st. But that's not you.
Okay. We've already done tax collector, we've already done treasurer. There is a pre-printed motion on your agenda that I'll entertain. Somebody, anybody?
Motion to approve February bill list in the amount of $46,362.03. To ratify February prepaid bills in the amount of $25,368.68. And to ratify February payroll transfers in the amount of $17,154.93.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I have one question before we vote. Does this amount include the amount to KLH?
It does.
Okay.
Wait, let me just confirm that, just to make sure, but I believe it does. What Matt's talking about is a $500 invoice to KLH. Yes, for the engineer certification for the 537 plan condemnation thing, project. This was a report required by the Board of Viewers.
Correct.
Take it away, Roy.
And so my position on this is that I've previously stated that I am not going to vote to approve any payment to KLH without advance notice. So I'm not going to vote in favor of this, although I don't know that I would necessarily encourage any other commissioners to join me in that opposition, because my understanding is that it's been ordered, and if we don't approve it, then we have problems, which is exactly the situation that I hoped to avoid by asking that we get authorization before paying KLH another dime. So that's my position. Anybody else, anything to say? Okay, then all those in favor of the commissioner's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote no. Motion carries. Yes,
Yes.
second, Commissioner Dara. Anything else on finance?
No report.
Okay, Aleppo Township Authority.
We met last week, and I wrote a note to some people just to give you a sign if you saw my email. But the 2016 budget was approved, but it included changing the water rates by decreasing the 9,000 gallons allotment to 3,000 gallons per allotment. That will, according to the other letter that I got, that will have an effect on 142 houses, customers.
That's a minimum charge, right, Art?
Minimum charge. And in addition to that, they have approved a 15% increase in water rates.
So the minimum was 9,000 and now it's 3?
6, I'm sorry. Did I say 3?
Yeah.
Scratch. 9,000 to 6,000. So the effect of this work and the budget in so far year to date, we are in the hole for $46,955. With the decrease in the minimum and the 15% budget water increase, effectively we will be able to do the most vital projects, most of which we have talked about, and build up, return some reserves to the water, and end up the year with about 60,000 plus or minus. I kept reminding the members that this was not the end for the water, because we also have 2 other unknowns hanging out there. One being the letter from the state recently received, and the other was the unknown outcome of the negotiations with Sewickley. No one has any idea. Well, we have an idea on the state, but we don't really have any idea how the negotiations, or if they're going to be negotiations, as a matter of fact. Let's hope not. Because I'm afraid if that happens, it could put us back or pretty close to the hole again. But, it's when you're coming out of a $46,000 hole to begin with, it takes a lot of fun out of the game.
Okay, are you looking for anything from us? You don't need approval for that, right?
No, it's been approved by the authority. And I don't believe that time out. With their next bills, there will be a letter, which I haven't seen, and we'll peruse it carefully, a letter to the customers advising them that the bill that they are receiving is their bill for the first quarter, and that the new rate will take effect April 1st, so that they will see the effect of the new rate in June. To be very honest, the discussions lasted a good long time. We spent a good deal of time talking about the impact on customers, which I think with a rate like this and minimum should be duly discussed and approved. So if you'd like to do something on that for the commissioners, I'd be more than happy to put together either a note or a report or whatever it is that you might wish.
Well, I can tell you from a communications perspective, every time this comes up, obviously people are unhappy.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine when we circulate the digest for this meeting and that's announced, there's going to be reaction.
Yeah, I would be surprised if we don't.
Right. So I think that the question I would just have is there a plan for how we accept that feedback, for what our response is to that? It would be nice if there was something prepared that could explain.
Absolutely. Well, the letter that's going out with the bill will hopefully explain that.
Right.
And but in terms of any other plans to gather the data from the reactions that will be sure to come, no, we haven't done that yet.
Is the letter prepared yet?
No.
Not that it'll make anyone feel any better, but as I recall, most of the increase is necessitated because we're passing on the rate increases that we're being hit with from Westview.
Rescue. Yeah.
So it's not,
That's right.
it's not anything internal, to our operations that's causing the problem. It's simply the fact that we've got a supplier who is raising rates on us and we're passing it on.
Right.
So, I think that makes it, not that anybody wants to hear that they're getting a rate increase, but it might make it a little easier to swallow if they realize that we're just passing it on.
Yeah, those gifts from Westview is how we ended up 46 grand in the hole.
From a citizen perspective, I know that there's a difference between us and the authority, the board and the authority. But I look at this tax report and this treasury report, and I look at $1.2 million. And if I were a citizen and I look at this, and then you tell me that I have to pay more for water, somehow that doesn't sit well. We have a lot of money. This township has a lot of money. Now, what do we do with that? How does that? I don't know. But I mentioned before that I thought that maybe we could make a loan to the authority to be paid back over time.
It's my understanding we can't do that.
I don't
We're not a
know.
bank.
Federal government started that program a few years ago, and it hasn't worked out real well.
What?
Loaning money, borrowing money.
So what? Explain to me the difference. So we're sitting on this money in our treasury, and yet we have an authority which is separate, yes? But no way we can connect the dots?
Think of it this way, Joey.
Okay.
And I'm just giving a legal explanation.
Yeah, and
not a
that's
political
fine,
one.
that's
not-
fine. I need to understand this.
think about it this way. If you say we have a lot of money, but if we had to buy the water, we wouldn't have that much money because we could, some places, the water service is provided by the township, not by an authority. But when that happens, those costs and those expenses associated with delivering the water get charged to the municipality.
Mhm.
So your 1 point whatever million that you're looking at
Okay.
as your budget here, if you had to pay the rate increases that the authority is going to have to pay, it would be coming out of your operating budget. So what I'm saying is someone has to pay for the water. If it's coming out of the authority, their budget's going to be off. If it's coming out of the township's budget is going to be off by that much. But the cost of the water is fixed. Someone has to pay the cost of the water.
I would just make the
I don't know, does that
observation.
make any sense?
Yes.
In order for the township to meet its operating and maintenance and infrastructure requirements, I don't think $1 million budget is much money at all.
No, it's not.
Oh, I think it is. I
Well-
think you'd be hard put to find, we've been sitting on a very large treasury. Now, is it horrible? No. But that's my personal opinion.
Well, you're sitting on a positive variance of less than 1 year's operating budget, right?
Yeah.
So that means that
Is it less than 1 year?
It's right around 1 year, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
well,
no,
I'm
no.
just making, it's
Let's
just
go-
an
let's go forward because
observation.
this is a very, this is a problem that we're going to live with. In my opinion, Aleppo is not in an enviable position, all right? We're caught between our supplier, Westview, and our other processor, Sewickley. There's not a damn thing we can do about it. quite
Is that going to
frankly.
be written in the letter that this is due to the Westview rate increase?
I haven't seen the letter yet,
Okay.
but we're going to make it as open and transparent as humanly possible because why not? But
I can say from the point of view, other authorities that I represent, when they have an increase, if it's due to the supplier or due to the primary source or the treatment plant, we always put in there, this increase is attributable to outside costs imposed by our supplier or by, it's usually language to that effect. Now, I haven't seen the authority's letter, but typically that would be language that you would find in that kind of letter.
You have data from Westview that would be useful in saying anything about the water quality, given the big issues that are currently running around all over the country about lead in drinking water and other such problems?
I have not heard anything about the questioning the quality
But there's,
of the water. quality of the water.
Westview must be running tests. I mean, it might be worth,
Oh, they do, they have to.
might be worth getting their data
Mhm.
and including that in the letter as a positive to say, yes, the rates have gone up,
That's
but
true.
Yeah.
but your water quality means.
Everybody else has lead except us.
I'm sorry?
Everybody else has lead except us.
Well,
The price you pay for lead-free water.
That's correct. But in addition, Joanne, we did not put in a lot of the repairs and road rebuilding that they would like to have. We did what,
Bare
in my opinion, really had to be done.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of questions in our mind as to whether we might get blown out of the water with cost overruns on those. So we do not have a lot of money from an operating standpoint. And the difficulty is when you're looking at those numbers and have those kinds of reserves to think that we have a lot of money when we have these high operating
Oh, I don't
expenses.
think the authority does. I'm not implying that.
I understand.
Okay.
It suggests that we're trying to hoard reserves, and we are not. Not that I've been able to find.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't think so.
And I am concerned about some of the projects that we are going to do because we have to do them. I hope to heaven's name that they were creative in putting them together, but I have no experience with that yet, so. And that's the situation we find ourselves in. And I've never been in a, I run a lot of businesses, but I've never been in a place where I have a monopoly on one side supplying me, a monopoly on the other side serving me. I mean, that's like, when would you like to cut your throat?
Utilities.
Mm.
And that issue has come up in the past when there have been rate increases from the authority on the water. One of the common responses is, well, whose decision was it to put us in a place where we can be held hostage by our suppliers? And I just, from a sort of historical perspective, I think it's worth noting that we looked at that the last time that came up.
Right, we did.
We looked at whether there were other suppliers that we
There's
could
nothing.
deal. And we talked about even investing in infrastructure that could get us diversity in our suppliers. And really, we didn't.
Running lines
Yep.
across the river. And
Yep. We put Tony was very frustrated
Yeah.
at being asked to do that, but he went out and he did it, and he sourced different suppliers, and it came to the conclusion it really made no sense financially
No.
to look at any
Well,
suppliers.
You're
on-
talking about some major equipment.
because the bottom line is that the pipe only goes to one place.
Yes, it does.
So
It really
And by the way, at the end of the day, you're just with another monopoly.
Right.
So no one's gonna guarantee you a low rate for an indefinite period of time. So and Tony did. Tony did a lot of shopping and spent a lot of time running the numbers. And, Westview was certainly the best quality because he did a quality analysis, best quality for the best price for the longest period of time. And he's still going to suffer rate increases.
The copious amounts of data that were compiled by the engineer to put together the budget in terms of all the rates being charged by all of the municipalities in Allegheny County, we're still not the tops. Sewickley is significantly above us, and Coriopolis is not far behind. So we're not out of the realm of reality.
Oh,
is
the
what I'm saying.
rates, yeah. There are some places that are even higher.
Yeah, there's some other towns that, I don't know.
You might also talk to Westview in terms of a little more detail because EPA has cranked up the standards for drinking water quality, which may have impacted Westview's need to add additional treatment.
What's the time frame on that? Do you know? Time frame on those requirements?
Well, some of
Last year.
them have kicked in, some of them are going to be
Yet to
kicking
kick
in. So they're probably not done.
Okay. Well, we'll check that out. Doesn't cost anything. Absolutely. But it's a interesting conundrum, so to speak.
All right.
It's a dilemma, really. Okay. And my definition of a dilemma is that it's a problem that has two answers and both of them are repugnant.
That's pretty good definition.
all right, well, thank you for the bad news.
You're more than welcome. The least I could do.
Anything else from the authority?
No.
Turn to COG. There was a COG meeting last week and I wasn't there. Commissioner Scullert was there. Tell us all about it.
Well, I'm trying to remember what we talked about. And the two things that they did talk about were the refuge and the recycling bid, which you have on the agenda.
Mhm.
And the other was the Verizon Comcast contract, which we have opted out of, correct?
And
Which
that's on the-
really
that's on the
doesn't
agenda as
affect
well.
us.
Pardon me?
Which doesn't affect us, and they, they're going to proceed with the communities that are opting in to, I guess it's a legal thing. And there were committees formed. They weren't really formed. People were signing up. I put your name down for 4.
Well, good for you.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. And so, yeah, so there was a list of committees. Jean was going, he was spending a lot of time making up committees. I put you down for entertainment and for the yearly dinner.
So I can vote it down.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of what else. And they're only doing the recycling once a year. You didn't tell me that.
I think that's for this year, because they don't have an executive director in place still, and it's a lot of work to pull the vendors together.
Yes, they can't. And the other thing they talked about was hiring an intern, and they are going to look into that. Nobody wanted to work for them the last time. That's because they had them filing. The job description was to file. And then our boy from Ben Evans said, well, there are some jobs in filing that could be very helpful. But anyway, they're going to come up with a good job
Working for the
description.
government filing.
Right.
And so they were really the big things that we talked about. Some conflicts here and there. But
Okay.
overall, it was a relatively speedy meeting. I was anticipating, had you under my breath, and I thought if I'm here until 9 o'clock, I'm not going to be happy. But it was over in about an hour and 15 minutes, and there were cookies, and so it went pretty quickly.
Okay, well, thank you for going. Thank you for your report. That brings us to the motion that is pre-printed on the agenda. And I will make the motion to participate in the joint refuse and recycling contract bid process through the COG. And I'll give some background on this just so that everybody understands what this is. That I think our contracts are every 5 years, Gwen, is that
Yes.
correct? So every 5 years, the COG bands together with the various communities in the COG, and they put out bids to try to get increased purchasing power through the refuse. So we have the option of participating in that or not participating in it and putting it out to bid by ourselves. It's always been one of the things that we found useful in the COG process. It saves work for our manager, and allegedly there is strength in numbers. So we allegedly get a better deal from the various suppliers if we participate in that contract. So that's my motion.
Is this an annual reoccurrence?
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah, it's a 5-year
Oh,
contract.
you did say that, right. Sorry.
So there's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. I will make the next motion as well, which is pre-printed on the agenda. A motion to decline to participate in the joint Verizon franchise negotiations through the Quaker Valley COG. Basically the same thing, except this is hiring an attorney to negotiate with Verizon.
We just waste of money.
We think it's a waste of money. The gut is that we're going to get the same deal. The gut is just that he's not going to negotiate a better deal for us than anybody else is going to get. I think Verizon is enough of a behemoth that they're giving the same deal to everybody, and I think the best attorney in the world can't get them to move off their position. It's a contract of adhesion. You could get them to move. All right, so that's the motion. Is there a second? Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Ambulance Authority.
There is a meeting Thursday. There was a meeting a month ago. I'm trying to think of what we talked about. There was a decision. They got a good health care plan via their union. They're very pleased. We're still in the black and doing pretty well, keeping up with services. Nothing really, the meetings are very quick, nothing really specific. I can't think of anything else.
Okay, thank you. Sewer project. Do we have anything to talk about with the sewer project? Solicitor, you'll save your report for the executive session. Anybody have any unfinished business to discuss? Hearing none, does anybody have any new business to discuss?
There's one thing on your agenda, and that is the discussion of an offer to donate property to the township. And we have a resident, a longtime resident who passed away, and his son now has his land and offered to donate a certain portion to the township for possibly use as a park.
Oh, I want, that's so exciting.
It's not. Wait, let me keep going.
Oh, I want to spend that money.
That was a good news.
That was, we had HRG look at it. They have like parks analysts in their engineering firm too. And
Where
they
is
have
it?
some, it's the parcel, it's part of the parcel off of Waterworks Road where that development, they were looking to put that development in about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do it because they couldn't get access. The turning radius was not right. And so they just really couldn't get access for that number of cars into the site, and the same problem exists. So they looked at it and they said, the property could be utilized as a park and recreational ground, but there are multiple issues that prove to be difficult in developing the property. It has steep topography that would limit the ability to develop active recreation, such as athletic fields, and would cause the park to consist of passive recreation or trails. The steep topography also causes access issues with the property, specifically for the construction of a parking lot, as the township does not have an existing trail system that would provide access to the property. Our fear is that the construction of access and parking facilities would be significant in the development of the property as a park. They also quickly looked at it as an investment in terms of communication, utility, and development potential, but they were briefed on the history of the project, and the residential development has been proposed in the past, and access was a major setback. There's also a communication tower and a water storage tank that are located within a close proximity, most likely decreasing the opportunity to develop the property for those needs. So they really couldn't find a good use for the
Who was
township,
family?
Mendocino. And so while
There are two
HRG
brothers
said it
that
was
live, right?
a nice offer, the costs
Oh.
involved in trying to do anything with it, because it's very steep. A big portion of it's very steep. There's a small level
I've
area.
been up there. I think it was up there once for some reason.
As a wilderness area, would the parking and the turning radiuses still apply?
Yes, as a way to
And
To
that
make it
was
use,
where
otherwise we
that-
just own
that
another hillside.
group was
Yeah,
going
right.
to build houses.
Yes. Mhm. So they, at the HRG at this time, couldn't see a low-cost use for us.
Maybe the Allegheny Land Trust would like.
That is another suggestion, that
Perhaps
maybe
that
we
would
could
be good.
steer the landowner towards them.
Or they could use it as a tax deduction.
I move that we respectfully decline the offer.
Yes. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Then the vote is to respectfully decline the offer to accept the property from the township. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank
Do we
you.
want to suggest to them or about the land trust?
I'll call
Yeah,
the
okay.
son and I'll let him know. That's a good
Fine,
idea.
thank you.
Okay, let's briefly move through our action items. And again, just by way of educating the new commissioners what these action items are, we just decided that we were going to keep a list of things that we talk about. It's sort of old business, documented. And a lot of this we just sort of kick down the road every time, but we'd like to keep it on the radar, so to speak. So the way I see this is if there's things that we want to take off this list, we're certainly happy to take them off. If anybody else wants to put things on this list as we go, speak up. So what are on our list right now are policies and financial management. The background on this is that we get our audit every year, and every year our audit has the same recommendations on it. So a couple years ago, we said, let's try to chip away at these things and try to get cleaner audit letters. So we've been doing that. Do you have any
We're
update
down
on?
to 5, this completed 5, this is our 6th. No, I need to meet with the finance chairs to see where they want to go with it.
Okay. Pension analysis, something we've been,
I met with representative from PFM, which is Pliget is a division of PFM, and PFM also is the arm that helped with our refinancing for the sewer project. And we gave them all of our pension information, and they're developing a recommendation because the goal was to try to equalize the pensions between the authority and the township so that everyone had the same plan. We can't be in the same plan, but had the same structure plan. So we gave them our information, and then when George gets back, he's going to
meet with them again and see if we can make a recommendation for that.
Great.
Do we know we can't be together?
Yes, we had separate tax IDs, so we're separate entities.
George has talked about getting a recommendation about ordinances concerning electronic billboards and cell towers, and he's just sort of been mentioning this from time to time. Road bonding was an issue that we discussed about 6 months ago in terms of setting weight limits on the roads. And that's just something that we're going to defer until the spring or the summer. Industrial park occupancy was something we talked about, trying to increase the our participation in marketing the industrial park in hopes of trying to increase our tax basis. And I guess that industrial park is up for sale, so we decided
No.
to
It has been sold.
I haven't gotten any official notice.
Okay. Maybe they haven't closed yet.
so
But I was told that they had a deal and so on, so. But I haven't heard a word peep since, so.
well, let us know if you hear more about that.
I certainly shall.
And then a SWOT analysis is something that's my little brainchild that I'd like for us to sort of do a brainstorming session about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the township. And we've had that on the agenda and taken it off a couple times, but the hope is that we're going to do that next month during our workshop meeting. So you have that to look forward to. It will be a limited time period, I promise.
You're going to do a SWOT analysis in a limited time period?
I am. We're going to set time, right? We're going to have a timer and we're going to talk about each one in a limited amount of time. We're going to move
Mind
through
if
it
I watch?
quickly. Yeah. Anybody else have anything they want to put on the action items discussion lists? Anything they want to take off? All right, citizen participation. We have no citizens. Okay, we will not adjourn. We will go into executive session to discuss matters of litigation. Thank you.